work in financial services, and along with my colleagues, we are committed to helping our customers lead more prosperous lives and look forward to a retirement with dignity. But in some cases, having money may not be enough if the choices around you for assisted living and nursing homes actually leave seniors and their families with feeling like they've lost a lot more than they've gained. So I'm delighted to introduce Melissa Withers, Executive Director of the Business Innovation Factory, to hear her story about how her team is taking a holistic approach to transform the entire ecosystem of the elder care experience. Please join me in welcoming Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Danielle and Sean, for having me here today. I'm the Executive Director of the Business Innovation Factory in Providence, Rhode Island. We're a small nonprofit that focuses our mission on enabling what we call collaborative innovation. It's the kind of innovation that requires collaboration across traditional boundaries, across industries, and across sectors. And the story I'm going to tell you today is about one of the activities that's happening in one of our laboratories, which are the platforms where we take all of our conversation about collaborative innovation and put those ideas to work. I've learned a lot about the elder experience since we set off on this journey. I've had the privilege to talk to some of the nation's experts on elder care, and I've spent the last year really living with a group of elders who have been participating in this project. But I'm pretty sure I learned everything I need to know about elder care when I was in 7th grade. And I learned how to sneak into my brother's record collection. And he introduced me to the Rolling Stones.
What a drag it is getting old.
That pretty much sums it up. But really, what's the big deal, right? So suck it up. So your knees ache and your back hurts and you can't chew your food. Okay, so get over it, right? Well, it actually really is a problem. Warehousing doesn't work. And we're going to talk a little bit today about the economic rationale for why warehousing doesn't work and a little bit about the cultural reason why warehousing doesn't work. But our current system, should you call it a system, where people get old and then they go to these places where they die, isn't effective. There are more nursing homes today than there are McDonald's in our country, which begs the question, how many more can we build? Where should we build them? Who's going to pay for it? And just to give you a sense of what that means, it's $80,000 a year today to live in a nursing home with a roommate, not some highfalutin elder center in the sky called Meadowlark Springs where they, deliver your food. Just your regular old nursing home. And with that same $80,000, you could send your kid to Brown for 2 years, or if you're more like me, a little more self-centered, you could spend a year on a Caribbean cruise with your partner. But wait, it gets worse. I'm going to introduce you to an advisor on our project, Dr. Richard Besdine, who's the director of gerontology at Brown University, and he talks a little bit about the silver tsunami, and other folks have mentioned that today. But the arrival of the baby boomers onto the shores of old age presents our system with quite a problem.
America is facing a silver tsunami. Of the 80 million babies born right after the Second World War, 77 million of them are still alive, and the vast majority of them are going to get very old, become Medicare eligible, and require an intensity and volume of healthcare services never before seen in this country.
So just to put some characterize that for you a little bit, there's 35 million people today that are 65 plus. A baby boomer turns 65 in America every 6 seconds. And in just a couple years, we'll go from 65 to 87 million. And in terms of economics, that's how that plays out. So clearly, there is an opportunity for us to rethink how we deliver services to our elders, and that these kinds of numbers suggest that it's not really an incremental switch. We got to fundamentally rethink how we deliver health and wellness services to our nation's elders. So it's a big deal. Surprise. One of the major issues that we discovered as we began to unpack this elder experience is that most people think of the journey of aging as this neat linear path, that you start off, you're young, and you walk down this road, and then you get old, and then you die. But really what we know is that the journey of aging is far more complex and circuitous and not direct. And an elder may go through 4 or 5 stops before they get to the pearly gates. They may go from their home to a hospital, to a rehab center, to a nursing home center, to an assisted living facility, back to rehab, back to your house, before the moment comes when they make the great transition into the afterworld. And I think it's really important as we start to talk about what is the elder experience, that you keep that in your mind, that we know this from our own experience, but there's something so separate about getting old that I think we don't like to think about it that way. But being older is no less circuitous than being young. So what is the first step to designing a better system? There are schools all around the country and lots of academics and white papers talking about how we need to readjust the payment system and insurance and Medicare to design a better system. But we wanted to come at this from a different angle. We wanted to start by putting the elder experience at the center. Most of the conversations about elder care today happen from the perspective of the institutions that deliver services and support to elders. When was the last time you really heard from an elder what their experience is? It's really absent from the conversation. You wouldn't design a sneaker without asking a 14-year-old what they thought about it, but we have no problem designing whole environments for elders without asking them what they think. So I want to tell you a little bit about a project that we started about a year ago, where we wanted to better understand the elder experience, and we wanted to do it through the eyes and the ears of elders themselves. So we embedded ourselves with a group of elders that are living at a truly amazing place called Tockwatton Home. It's a skilled nursing and assisted living center, and they are very forward-thinking, really exploring new ways to deliver resident-centric care and deliver better services. And they opened their doors to us, and they allowed us to spend about 6 months getting to know their residents. And we now have been there for 12 months, so I don't think we're ever leaving. But I wanted to take just a minute, and I wanted to introduce you to my friends at Tockwatton Home, because the story that I'm going to share with you isn't really my story. It's their story.
You were looking around for somebody to photograph, and you found me, Ruth S. Gardner.
And how old are you?
Well, I'm 98. I don't know how I got there, but I did.
It's gonna make me laugh. My name is Angela. I love people. Oh, I like so many people. I wish I could stay all the time.
John F. Kiernan, K-I-E-R-N-A-N, Jr. I grew up in Providence. Well, I'm a retired automobile service manager.
Hello, my name is Aaron Fox, and I'm here for the goodwill of mankind.
How old are you, Aaron?
69.
How long have you been in Tockwatton?
They tell me 8 years. I kind of lost track.
Life was easy then. I mean, you didn't have all the worries of the world. I mean, when you're young, you're not realizing what the rest of the world is like anyway. We really don't have, you live for one day at a time, really, because we really don't have a future except seeing our family grow. That's the only thing we really got to live for, to our children and grandchildren at our age, which thank God every day.
That's Bunny. She's an actress. And in addition to traveling outside of where she lives to do productions, she once a month brings a production in and engages all of her neighbors and relatives and friends in a production. So what did we do? So we decided to embed ourselves in this environment and use some classic ethnographic techniques that are used in industrial design. Observational techniques using audio, video, digital recording, self-reporting, interviewing, and triangulating some of what we were capturing from the perspective of the elders. With that, with information from their care providers, their family members, and their staff. We did feel that although we wanted to really understand the elder experience, in most cases you couldn't leave that out. And then we surrounded ourselves with a group of national advisors who did bring that outside perspective and and secondary expertise. And we had an opportunity to live with these elders for many, many, many weeks. We participated in Happy Half Hour, in the Tiki Party, in their memorial services when one of them passed. We were able to follow them through incredibly intimate routines such as showering and toileting, meal times, private time with their families, and we were able to explore the environments where their interactions happened, looking at furniture and fixtures and how they interacted with all aspects of their environment. This is Larry and Esther, and they became stars of our work early on. What's so special about Larry and Esther is that, one, they've been married for 65 years, and they still like each other. But more interesting from a research perspective is that Larry lives independently in an apartment-like environment. He gets some support, but he's a free-range chicken, we like to say. He goes where he wants to go. He does what he likes to do. He likes to do what he does. Esther, his wife, on the other hand, lives in skilled nursing. She has dementia and several complicating physical conditions that make it impossible for her to live with Larry. So they live close to each other, although I have to stress that nursing care and assisted living are sort of like Venus and Mars. They're literally separate environments, and as you would expect, skilled nursing looks really clinical, and the assisted living is apartment-style living. But what was really special about spending time with Larry and Esther is we were able to track their experiences and not only understand each individual experience, but understand the delta between the two. So what separates independence from dependence, health and wellness from sickness? And they became for us, along with many others who helped, really great sources of information. We followed them through some aspects of life that won't come as a surprise to you. Things like eating, things that are super important to us. How is food made? How is it delivered? What happens when you don't smell food and suddenly it appears before you? Are you hungry? Will you eat it? Textures, tastes, can you swallow? What happens when you don't have teeth anymore? And what's that whole experience and how does it stitch together? And how do changes in the environment make that experience more pleasant or less pleasant? We looked at dressing. This may sound like something that maybe wouldn't matter, but in fact, clothing and clothing choices can have a big impact in an elder's experience. One of the issues that we saw, elders have the inability to remove their clothing quickly, and if you have borderline incontinence, this can lead to incidents, which can have all kinds of tangential health effects that are really troubling, and really unmanaged incontinence is one of the primary things that takes an elder who's living really independently and moves them into more serious clinical care. So we looked at dressing in both of these environments. Where is clothing stored? How do you access it? And what you find are really very traditional options. You either wear what Larry wears, which is kids like to shop at Kohl's. It's one of his favorite stores. Or Esther, she wears a hospital gown most of the time because it's what she can manage to get on and off. We spent a lot of time looking at transitions. How do you get from space to space? Getting out of bed in the morning, moving down to the common area. For Esther, who has some physical conditions, how did she get back and forth to spend time with Larry? And what are these environments and these systems? How did they interact? How did the spaces support that flow, or in some cases, diminish an elder's desire to go from one place to the next? We spent a lot of time looking at personal care. We happened to have partners that were very interested in this area. We looked at showering and toileting, but we also looked at what older women do to manage their cosmetic routine. A big area for us that we looked at was paperwork and finances, and how did this experience differ? Larry was always the bookkeeper of the family, and when they moved into this environment, they lost access to having a lot of records on hand. You have to winnow down your life to live in these very small spaces, and the way storage is designed, it's very difficult for Larry to access these materials. He has to get down on his knees and pull out boxes, and we went through these experiences and captured all of it in video and audio and photography. We also looked a lot at medication. I feel like Josh's presentation was timely. Medication management for elders is a huge, huge, huge opportunity. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But how do you store your medication? How do you take your medication? How do you understand your medication and share that information with the people around you? We looked at relationships, and not only relationships that were happening in the immediate environment, but how are we enabling elders that are living in these kinds of places to connect with the outside community? How are we facilitating this? How is information coming in? How is information going out? How is technology enabling that or not enabling that. And I don't think you'll be surprised to find that most of these environments are strange technology-free zones. And it's not because the elders want it that way. They're not afraid of computers. They have some issues. Manual dexterity, osteoarthritis can make it hard to use a mouse. Many of them have macular degeneration, so the screen size matters. But we brought the Nintendo Wii in, and you've probably heard about elders using Wii. They're not afraid of technology at all. But yet that's just an unexploited opportunity in the space. We looked at mobility. Mobility, again, not only in the immediate environments, but environments around in the community. How do you get from point A to point B when you can't drive anymore or when your legs won't take you somewhere? You probably wouldn't expect this, but the walkers, they still have the tennis balls on the bottom like my grandfather used to have, although some of them have fancy handbrakes now, so I guess there's been some change. But mobility is important because of this thing called inciting incidents, and most nursing homes and assisted living facilities are measured by falls and physical things and not quality of life. So if an elder gets up and falls and they break something, that's sort of a strike against the home. So that's created is a culture of immobility, where residents and staff together are so afraid of falling that they don't move anymore. And we all know what happens when you don't move. You have other kinds of health implications that are way worse than a broken hip, believe it or not. And again, looking at entertainment and connections. What is entertainment when you're living in this different environment? So what we did is we took all of that data and we sorted through it, and we created a library of videos and photos and interviews, animations, graphics, infographics that we thought would help experts and non-experts understand the elder experience better. And okay, so we played with your emotional heartstrings a little bit. I'll admit that some of the photos are very emotional, but we did that on purpose. We felt that in order to get the elder perspective to the center of the conversation, we needed to bring home the reality of their experience. And then what we tried to do was take those concepts and those areas, the places of the experience where we felt there were the greatest opportunity for intervention, and organize them in a way that made it easy to see all the ways that we could start to think about a systems-level approach to innovating in this environment and bringing our partners together to organize around some of these ideas. And then we asked ourselves, what if? What if we could create an active platform where elders could get engaged in R&D, where they could be drivers of the experience and have a platform for responding to new ideas and providing direct customer experience into our conversations. And so that's what we did. So we created a methodology that allowed us to engage elders in different kinds of activities. You'd think it was RISD Design 101. Post-it notes and Sharpies and whiteboards. It wasn't complicated. And after we went through what was a significant trust-building phase, this was their home, and we were new arrivals into that home. Once we went through a significant trust-building phase, we were able to get the elders to really get active and engaged. This is Mary. She's 85. She let us videotape her in the shower and look at how, and she wore a robe, but to let us really look at how that experience, not just the shower, but the whole bathroom experience, thinking about the shower, planning for it, preparing for it, lining up what she needs, struggling to find the right shelving and places to put all of her stuff, and then watching her go through the actual process of caring for herself and seeing all the challenges that she had and making that available to our partners. We have done a couple deep dives where we've taken this approach and gone really deep into a specific area. We did one deep dive in personal care, and I'm just going to share with you briefly the medication management work that we completed recently. This is a medicine cabinet. Surprise, there's no medicine in it, because that's not where people keep their medicine. Yeah, I don't know why I expected to find medicine in there. I don't keep my medicine in the medicine cabinet either. But when you go into many of these environments, you have elders that are dealing with an incredibly complicated medicine regime. This is not a person in a nursing home. This is an elder living independently in assisted living, and that is her box of medicine. 17 medications, 4 times a day. And this is what we have, the cassette. Like, that's where we've gotten to after all this time, the cassette. And you can imagine with that experience, the issues that elders have. Some are physical, very tactile, getting the pill out of the cassette box into the mouth. Very difficult when you're trying to maintain dignity and independence. More significant than that are the psychological effects when you talk about adherence and compliance. And again, Josh's talk was very timely. Many of the elders reported this deep sense of disconnect between their medication What does this blue pill do again? I wish I knew. I don't feel well. Is it because of the yellow pill? I don't know, because the pills are separated from the packaging, which most of them couldn't read anyway. So what they're left with is this magic medicine box, and there's a lot of cultural baggage that comes along with that. So we spent a lot of time talking with them. This is one of our researchers getting and many of the elders, very private, this older generation, very private, looking into the abyss of medicine and understanding how that process takes place. And I have a picture of it, but I was concerned we wouldn't have time, and I'm glad because we're running out of time. The best solution we found was a person that had handwritten out a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and wrote the names of her medicines in there. That's it. No Excel spreadsheets. That's the best that we had. So I want to leave you with this thought, that the nursing home of the future isn't a nursing home at all. What we need to do is take what we know about the current experience and what we know about the expectations of the baby boomers and start to think about a system that understands how to deliver health and wellness services to elders as they age, where they are, when they are, what they need, and how they need it. So we're in a phase right now where we've been able to expand the lab outside of our first environments to include elders that are aging in place and baby boomers as well, to get their feedback on how they're experiencing age as it happens to them. And we've been able to gather a group of partners that are very interested in working with us to understand the aging in place experience and how we can start to think about those systems level solutions that move us away from these incremental tweaks and really help us create a platform for thinking big about what the system for elder care in the future might look like. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks.